I'm very guilty of early in the season. I said, yeah, this is a two-team race in the NL Central, the Brewers and Cardinals. Little did anybody know, me in particular, that this Elly De La Cruz would just absolutely light a spark under the Reds, and they have bolted up to first place in the NL Central. And the Brewers are looking up now, find themselves 2 games behind, but a big weekend series coming up against the Reds at AmFam Field. We will talk about the Reds in this series with Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds. That's coming up here in this episode. We'll talk about that. Also, Christian Yelich, those numbers continue to skyrocket, and we'll look at the pitching matchups for this weekend series as well. All that coming up next here on Locked On Brewers.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cincinnati Reds are coming into AmFam Field with a record of 49-39. First time somebody in this division has been over the 500 mark. That's a little scary because for most of this season, it looked like this would be, the team that wins this division would be a couple of games over the 500 mark. It's just been such a malaise in this division. But now Cincinnati is starting to pull away from the pack. Well, they're 2 games ahead of the Brewers. That's what makes this such a huge series. Brewers can't be afford to falling behind it against these guys at all. The Brewers did take 3 of 4 earlier this year, but that was before De La Cruz joined the roster, and the Reds have just been smoking everybody. They're on a 5-game winning streak. We're going to talk to Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds, one of the fine co-hosts of that show, coming up here in a little bit. My name is Chuck Freeman. I'm first-year host of Locked On Brewers on the Locked On Podcast Network, longtime sports talk show host in the state of Wisconsin, morning sports anchor at 1310 WIBA in Madison, and I've been covering the Brewers for over 40 years for AP Radio, among other people, and appreciate you joining me. As always, find our podcast on the various platforms, Google, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We're on all the majors, some of the minor ones as well. I lay it out, on my Twitter account every day, Chuck Freeman, FREIMUND, all the places to find us, including the video version on YouTube. Search Locked On Brewers, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode here on the Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Brewers and Reds coming up tonight, 7:10 with that first pitch. Catch every pitch of the Brewers' hometown broadcast, Sirius XM, the SXM app, search Brewers. All right. First of all, let's unpack this last series of the Cubs. Brewers did split that series, and I think we all feel the Brewers should have swept that series and should be on a nice long winning streak, considering the last 3 games, which I've detailed, they've kind of fallen in the tank a little bit and blew late inning games. That's a nice way to put it. That's what it was starting last Friday in Pittsburgh. But hey, you know what? Can't do anything about it right now. But one guy who's been on an absolute roll is Christian Yelich. And yeah, I've been downplaying what Yelich had been doing all season long because I think we're just looking for any positivity out of Yelich this season, anything we can get out of him this season. But yeah, he's done enough, and he's been great. He's been really good for the Milwaukee Brewers. You look at the numbers and what he's done, just been awesome. He's hitting home runs now. He's going the opposite field. Yesterday's home run was a 3-run shot to the opposite field, but he's driving the ball. He's in the top 15 in WAR in Major League Baseball. That's pretty incredible. He's hitting 362 in his last 27 days. And I think for a long time here, we're saying, well, when is Christian Yelich coming back? And we've been led to believe many times that, Yelich had turned the corner only to fall in the tank. But we talked about this a couple of days ago. He has changed his batting stance around. He's done a few things. He doesn't have the leg kick anymore, and he continues to put up MVP numbers. He hasn't hit like this since 2018 and 2019. So I think 27 games and batting 362 over that span is a pretty good sample size. He's raised his batting average to 287. I'm still big on the batting average. He's got 11 home runs. Want to see those power numbers continue to move. But yeah, Christian Yelich So far, so good in the last 27 games. Okay. Going anywhere from batting first to batting third to batting fourth in the lineup, depending who's pitching. But is he quite there just yet? He's hitting like he did in 18 and 19, but I still want to give it a more sample size. I'd like to see him pull the ball a little bit more if I want to nitpick a little bit, and I want to see the power numbers get there. But so far, like 10 doubles in the month of June, I think it is. That's 10 doubles since the beginning of June. Has been just amazing. Another guy who's been solid for the Brewers, Piamps out of the bullpen. A guy who early in the season I said, still a little nervous about this guy, but he's pitching like, even Craig Counsell said this, pitching like an all-star closer, going out there and giving them setup innings in that critical eighth inning spot. When Strzelecki failed us, Piamps has moved in the eighth inning spot, has been fantastic. His stuff is just wicked. 11 straight games for Piamps, 0 runs earned. That is fantastic. All right, we're going to get to the Reds coming up. And Corbin Burnes has the ball in the opener. We're going to get to Burnes a little bit later on here in the show and what he's done and what he hasn't done for the Brewers this season. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. We're going to talk to Jeff Carr coming up next. This show is brought to you in part by one of our new sponsors here, Sleeper. Sleeper is one of our new sponsors. Sleeper, swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to $100, 100 times your money, I should say. Download the Sleeper app, use the promo code Locked On. You'll get a $100 match in your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Sleeper's terms of use for details, currently operational in over 30 states. So check out Sleeper today. Also, another one of our great sponsors is Gametime, the Gametime app. This is the way to get tickets for this weekend. I've been telling you for a long time now that I've been using the Gametime app, and I'm getting great seats right behind the visitors' dugout on game day. You get these seats right behind the Brewer dugout or the Reds dugout. This weekend, you could do this through Gametime. Just a couple of taps and you are in. It's a great way to go. Gametime is the best way to go, I found, for buying tickets. Flash deals, last-minute tickets, easy to find tickets for any kind of event. Concerts. Maybe you're going to go see Belinda Carlisle in concert. Or maybe you're going to a NFL game, a college game, NBA game. They have links to all this. They have tickets for all these type of events. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get $20 off. Download that Gametime app. That's the first step you need to do. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. You can plan months in advance for a game, or you could just hours before game time, go to your Gametime app, and there it is. You're going to get some great discounts. They guarantee you're always going to get the best price. They got their money back difference, 110% of your difference. Buy the tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're all set. Tickets sent directly to your phone. You'll never have to dig through another email again. Go to your Gametime app and take advantage of Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase on Gametime. Chuck Freeman here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. We'll come back and we will talk to Jeff Carr. That's coming up next here on Locked On Brewers. Welcome back to Locked On Brewers. I'm your host, Chuck Freeman. Joining us today, a guy who's flying high, him and his co-host on Locked On Reds, Jeff Carr, joining us right now. And Jeff, I'll be honest with you, I thought this was going to be the Brewers and Cardinals this season, even when you guys were playing well, like toward the end of May, and we went in there and took 3 of 4. I thought, okay, the Reds are back down to life, but man, the Reds have won 20 of 24. We're going to get into your stars and how De La Cruz has been playing. But, man, how has this been in Cincinnati with the way the team has turned around and is now 10 games over the 500 mark?
It's been Absolutely surprising, Chuck. And to be honest with you, I was getting just lambasted in spring training for suggesting that the Reds could win 75 games. And I was being labeled as an over optimist for calling 75 games. And now it looks like 75 games might almost be like a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I love how quickly the city has embraced these rookies, because I feel like 2019 they had a nice run. I mean, there was a run in 2019 where they won 6 in a row, including sweeping the Astros. And then in 2021, you had the COVID year 2020, so nobody was at the ballpark. But in 2021, you had a pretty solid team. But I don't think people really bought in. The general public and the casual fans were just kind of like, I still need to see it more. It's almost as if we saw 1 week of baseball with Matt McClain and Elly De La Cruz, and everybody's just like, we're back. We're in. The stadium's been relatively full. I mean, they've sold out some non-concert games, which basically, if you'd had told me in the preseason that would happen, I'd say, boy, what goes right for this team? But they've just been so much fun to watch, despite, I mean, they've definitely got their flaws, but they just keep continuing to figure this thing out each and every night.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think the series a couple of weeks ago against the Atlanta Braves, that was 2 weeks ago. I mean, you had full houses there. It just seemed like a rejuvenation of things. You guys came from behind, won that first game, and then dropped the next two. But still, it just shows you that, hey, baseball's kind of back in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's that series. So the 6 games that the Reds have played against the Braves, they have a run differential of -4, because all the games that they lost by 1, and the 2 games that they won, or the 1 game that they won by 1. So it's like whenever those two teams get together, and I know that with the Brewers have just owned the Reds. The last 10 games, I think the Brewers are like 8-2 against the Reds. So got a little bit of chip on her shoulder. I know that Elly was not up the last time that Milwaukee came to Cincinnati. So these next, what is it, 9 games in like 17 days between the Reds and Brewers, and then we're done, and then we don't see each other.
I mean, July, it's the Brewers and Reds like every other day, it feels like. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And De La Cruz, and I know I've been, even before he was called up, you guys were talking about, should they bring him up? Should they not bring him up? But he's been amazing. And, tell us De La Cruz mania has been like in Cincinnati. I mean, we see him number 44 and he's doing everything. He made a great play defensively at third base yesterday. But what has that been like, having this star in your team? And it's great to see a small market guy get all the publicity too.
Yeah, you talk about a dude that had so much hype coming up. His debut, I think, rivals, and if not, and I said this before, I think it was a bigger and more anticipated debut than Jay Bruce back in the day. And Jay Bruce was very hyped. So I think that with all of the hype surrounding him, he has somehow lived up to it and kind of expanded upon it. Like, you don't ever think of a rookie coming up. Like whenever Joey Weimer was coming up, did you say he's going to hit for the cycle? No, like one day, like I never said that about Elly De La Cruz, and then all of a sudden there he is. Like, it gets a triple. That game was so exciting to watch him do his thing, and he's the kind of player that, with all of the hype, you always have those people that like to be hype killers, and they say, well, he can't do this, and he needs to fix this, and this looks like a bad thing. Every time somebody pinpoints a part of his game that he needs to fix, he fixes it. Like, the biggest question surrounding him coming into the National Series was, he's a switch hitter, but he can't hit lefties. Well, he had 28 at-bats against lefties, and he only had 3 hits. He has since taken his batting average against left-handed pitching from 111 to 285. He's just really good at pinpointing that thing that you don't think he can, that he can excel at, and then he fixes it. And it's just amazing to watch how he goes. I mean, he's got 9 hits in the last 3 games. He had 4 hits there on July 4th. In fact, what was it? There was all kind of like there's all these random stats about rookies and Reds and all this other stuff, but both Elly De La Cruz and Spencer Steer, I believe, had 4 hits on July 4th, and it was just like, let's go. Like, the craziness of these young guys is absolutely amazing to watch. But Elly is the dude that when he plays, he has fun. If he hits a single, you can bet he's going to try and steal second, which I know that, Victor Caratini's been pretty good at throwing some people out. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch this series. But also he's want to steal third quite a bit as well. There's not a moment on the base paths that if Elly De La Cruz is standing there, the opposing team can be comfortable.
It takes him 2 strides to get to second base.
Yeah.
I saw the steal bases. I was like, wow, it didn't take much, I mean, it made it amazing. He is, he's got the combination of speed and power. And here's what you guys are going to face, because anytime a market like us or Cincinnati, when we get a star player, immediately the national pundits say, well, where is he going to sign his next contract? New York, right. Los Angeles. So everybody's going to want to here's some advice. Everybody's going to want to take your player away in the next 6 years.
Yeah, I remember our mutual friend Ethan Smith over at Locked On Pirates, like as soon as O'Neal Cruz was called up, there was like a bunch of people saying, all right, so when's he getting traded to LA? And I think there's some people that are saying that about Elly, but as of right now, I'm tuning them out. Like I got a couple of years before we even got to start worrying about that. But no, you're right. I mean, it's something about us in the heartland, right? Like if we're in the heartland, the immediate thought, people don't say, hey, are they going to go to the Cubs soon? Or are they going to go to the Braves soon? They say, are they going to go to one of the coasts? They're going to go to New York. They're going to go to LA, something like that. So no, it's funny to see, because even though like the Reds were an abject surprise, even to their biggest of fans, I think even if the Reds or the Brewers or whoever in the Central Division had expectations and they start to deliver on it, they absolutely surprise people on the coast, because they're just like, whoa, I didn't know they played good baseball there in the heartland. It's like, we play good baseball every year, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like people just want to see the Boston or Major League Baseball wants to shove Boston, New York, Los Angeles, and they forget about they just want us to be jobbers and lay down for those other teams. But this division is odd, and we're talking to Jeff Carr from Locked On Reds, Chuck Freeman here on the Locked On Brewers and the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. This division is odd. I mean, I'm thinking maybe it's going to be a 2-team race. I thought the Cardinals were going to be better than us. We all did, but I don't know, man. Somebody's got to cool off the Reds, because this might be a 1-team race. 20 of 24. It's been unbelievable.
It's a amazing stat, the 20 of 24, because the last couple of Reds teams to do that all have amazing either postseason success or, for the most part, World Series success, because the last couple of teams that went 20 of 24, at least 20 of 24, and in some cases 21 of 24, were the 75 team, the 95 team, which 95 team didn't make it to the World Series, but they made it to the NLCS. The 1940 team did it twice at 2 different periods during their season on their way to a World Series. It's just, there's different special statistics, and no pressure on Corbin Burnes, but if the Reds hit a home run tonight, they tie the franchise record for consecutive games hitting a home run. We just keep throwing up these stats that it amazes me to think, and I'm with you. I expected the Cardinals and the Brewers to be duking this out with the Cubs as the wild card, but it just feels like, and I still kind of ascribe that title of wild card to the Cubs, because we just never know when the Cubs are going to be like, you know what, let's just trade everything and get a bunch of guys at the deadline. We could totally do that. Or they could go the other way and trade Marcus Stroman and get a bunch of prospects and stuff like that. And the Cardinals, as much as I keep like looking over my shoulder, just thinking they're coming up eventually, they keep doing bad things, and they keep shooting themselves in the, like that game the other night that Hicks like airmailed the throw to first, and the Marlins walked it off on him. I was like, maybe the Cardinals really are done this year. I don't know. Like you know as well as I do, you never count them out, but maybe we ought to count them out this year.
Man, 51 losses at this point. I mean, that game the other night where they just, I was like, man, did he do that on purpose? Did he throw it over the first base? I was like, unbelievable. It was just, I couldn't believe it.
Was in the script, right? Yeah.
Unreal. Yeah, the WWE. Joey Votto came back a couple of weeks ago, and he's added a jolt to this team. And I know I'm watching you guys on the podcast, and of course your shirt there. You guys were excited about his, and he's always been a thorn in our sides here in Milwaukee.
I love Joey Votto. I was so happy to see him come back and come back in a big way. I mean, you're going to look at the batting average and you're going to say, well, that's not very Joey Votto-esque, but he's really leaned into the power side of things. And I think that as far as this team goes, the way that he fits in on it is just get on base and, rope a couple of dingers here and there. Like, that's all you really need to do. We don't need Joey to be the guy of the past. Like, there were so many years that Joey was the guy. And as Joey went, so did the Reds lineup. But it's weird to say that, he's been batting sixth. And that's okay, because I'm not arguing for him to hit third over Indy. I'm not arguing for him to hit fourth over Elly De La Cruz, maybe not even fifth, depending on the day. I really think that he fits in so well at this point in his career, because you think about guys like Miguel Cabrera and, you even go back to guys like Matt Holliday and stuff like that, who were always the linchpins for their teams. And you even think about Ryan Braun his final couple of years. It was just like the way that you want him to fit into the lineup is that he doesn't have to be the driving force behind it. And he recognizes that. And it's even crazy to see, like, you're probably going to see it if you bring a lefty in out of the pen. You're going to get this crazy thing of David Bell, like, subbing him out. It's not something that we're used to in Cincinnati. It's not something that I think Joey's used to, but he will get pinch hit for when lefties come into the game, and he'll be at the top step rooting on that guy that comes out of the dugout, because Joey's Joey. He's a stand-up human being.
What I thought funny of Joey the other day, some of his comments when he's talking about, I got to keep up with the guys, because we're some of these guys out here taking second, third, they're taking extra bases. Really an aggressive style that the Reds are playing this year.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about this season. And I know that I mentioned the home run streak, and that's been nice, because the first month and a half of the season, they really weren't hitting home runs. They were scoring runs based on getting them on, getting them over, and getting them in. But they are so adept at going first to third and second to home in situations where they can take that extra base. They will do it. It's gotten them into trouble a couple of different times. Like, and there was a very weird scenario. The weather sucked in the finale against the Nationals, but after a long rain delay, they came back to play. Elly De La Cruz was on third. Tyler Stevenson was hitting, and they will do this thing. It's going to happen. Just get prepared for it. Whenever the Brewers bring their infield in, and you've got Elly on third, or you got Matt McClain on third, or one of the speedsters, they send them. Period. Like, hit and run deal. Even if it's a ground ball straight to the third baseman, the guy's still running home, and they're daring you to make a play. So there's going to be a lot of stressful moments with the Reds on the base paths, because they've just been able to put so much pressure. They've already surpassed. So 1995 was the last time that they had over 100 steals before the All-Star break, and they've surpassed that. I think they're at like 104 now, or 105. And they're going to run. They're going to test Victor Caratini and the catching staff there, which I know that you've been very high on them. So it's going to be a test for them. I'm going to be interested to see how it rolls, because they're coming out of Washington, and Washington doesn't throw anybody out, so they might get a rude awakening too.
Well, our team, it's pulling my hair out, because they sometimes they can't hit. Look, the batting averages are this bad, but one thing the Brewers do have going for them is pitching, and Corbin Burnes pitches tonight. But Abbott has been so good, 4-0. He's I think he's been on like 3 different levels of the major league and 2 minor league levels. So, just been really good. Talk us a little bit about what we're going to see with Abbott if anybody hasn't seen him pitch tonight against Burnes.
There has been a little bit of let's call it consternation when it comes to the big rookie pitchers that we've seen the last few years for the Reds, when it comes to Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft. And that is, do they have enough pitches? Do they have that pitch mix that they can be a viable starter? Andrew Abbott does. Andrew Abbott has a very good fastball that he mixes with a curveball to really kind of like tunnel it through and create some good deception there with his pitch mix. But he's got a good changeup and a good slider that all of them break differently, all of them move differently, and all of them have different speeds. So he's able to call not on 2, 3, but 4 pitches that he can really get guys out with. And on top of that is just this really strong and like stable mentality. It's been something throughout this season that Graham Ashcraft has kind of gone through, where he hits some struggles, and those struggles compound, and then all of a sudden he's given up 3 runs or 4 runs or something in the game. The game that Andrew Abbott has looked the most human. He gave up a bunch of home runs, but he also had 12 strikeouts. Like, he gave up 3 runs. They were all solo shots, and he had 12 strikeouts. And it's just something that he is able to reach back. And you mentioned all of the different levels. He started the year at AA, quickly was promoted to AAA, and then quickly was promoted to the major leagues. And I think at this point, like, even with Green and Lodolo on the injured list, it's very obvious that he's the staff ace. But I think when Green and Lodolo come back, like, Andrew Abbott has a legitimate argument to be the staff ace even with those guys.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. Early this season, and after the Brewers went in there and took 3 or 4, I thought, okay, the Reds are just not it. I thought, no. But you move 10 games over the 500 mark, this winning streak, the way De La Cruz, you got our attention. And this is going to be a great series this weekend. And, like you said, we're going to see a lot of each other, our two teams, here in the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to be talking to each other a lot on some crossovers. We got 3 this weekend. We got 3 after the All-Star break, and then another 3 I think 10 days after that. So it's going to be crazy.
Hey, thanks for carving out some time, Jeff. Appreciate it. You guys do a great job on Locked On Reds, and we will talk to you very soon, my friend.
Absolutely, Chuck. Thanks, man.
All right. Good talking to Jeff Carr. He and Steven do a great job as co-hosts of Locked On Reds. And, because we're always trying to keep an eye on the enemy. We keep an eye on the other teams in the division. We don't play the Reds as much as once did, but as Jeff was talking about, we played the Reds 9 times this month and then don't see them anymore in August and September when you could have some critical games against each other. Go figure. Well, Corbin Burnes pitched into the 7th inning, pitched 7 strong innings last time on last Saturday night in a win in Pittsburgh. Really good, because I know a lot of you guys out there have some concerns about Burnesy, and we never used to feel this way about him, but I feel there's some of you out there, and I get it, they're a little unsettled when he takes the mound, because there's been a game where he's given up 6 runs in an inning. This was happening about 2 weeks ago, and followed that up with a bad start, and then he comes back and pitches a good one again in Pittsburgh. But let's face it, there's no better guy to start this opening series against the first place Reds than Corbin Burnes tonight. Abbott, as we were talking with Jeff there, Abbott's going to be one tough customer. He is. And there's some thought that the Reds might not be keeping him on the roster or cutting down, this stupid notion that they don't want to over pitch guys and stack up too many innings. Certainly, if the Reds are in the race, why would you even think about shutting Abbott down? Especially since, if he's going at this rate, what he's doing right now. So, but Burnes, Colin Ray on Saturday, and then Sunday, it's right now TBA, but it looks like Wade Miley. That's his turn. Wade Miley will likely make the start. Let's have fun this weekend. Going to be some good crowds out there. Night game on Friday night, 7:10 with the broadcast on Sirius XM, the SXM app. Turn search Brewers, and you'll get all 162 of Brewers baseball on there. So 3:10 on Saturday, and then back to 1:10 on Sunday. So 3 different starting times this weekend. Looking forward to this series with the Reds. Man, this is going to be great. Have yourself a great weekend. Enjoy the great Wisconsin weather as well. And we will talk to you all a little bit later on. Go Brewers. I'm Chuck Freeman on Locked On Brewers on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.